Well, good evening, good morning, dear friends and colleagues. Thank you for joining us this evening, and whatever time zone you are. This has been a great road to the Cyber Future Foundation's journey into making a program happen in India, and a lot of our friends we have been working for quite some time, and I believe hope that you are safe and you're well. Uh, I don't know how many of you know Cyber Future Foundation, so I'll give a quick 30 seconds on who we are. And then we have an excellent program and a set of panelists lined up for us to make this happen. Uh, I'm Valmiki Mukherjee. I'm the founder and chairman of Cyber Future Foundation. We founded this organization along with my dear good friends, Harold Collum, and a host of other leaders. And we landed upon a problem solving mission, which basically tried to see how we can engage the cybersecurity industry with the rest of the non-cyber, the business, the agencies, the leaders of government and education. How can we have a meaningful and more commonplace dialogue that everybody is aware of cybersecurity, and it is not just remaining as an expert field. The experts are there, and we have many here today, but the experts are going to solve the hard problems. We believe that as much as we can, if we can make cybersecurity a broad understanding, we can provide a broad understanding as well as a good set of practices that we all as citizens, as corporate citizens, as well as individuals and consumers follow. We will be in a much safer world in cyberspace. Many of us have actually been in this industry for quite long, so we all carry a background with us that informs our work and our vision. We do believe that once we are able to raise the awareness and the level of education uh, and understanding of cybersecurity issues, it will not become a cybersecurity issue, but it will become a network of trusted individuals and leaders who can actually take this forward. Many of us have actually worked together for years now, and in fact, you will meet quite a few. And I'll start with Dr. Pavan Dugal, a very good friend that friendship and the working relationship that we have developed over years that has landed us to this day. And I have learned from each one of you who are on the panel, and those many of those that I saw joined us in this event. I believe that our mission is to make the world a safer place. That includes cyberspace as well. Nowadays, especially with this pandemic, among the health and well-being, which is predominant and primary, I believe staying healthy and in good hygiene in cyberspace is as essential. The cybersecurity has been an industry of backstage. We do the work in the background. So the gentlemen and women that are serving here are serving a very good and a great cause, without a lot of the times without the recognition that they do. So, frontline workers in the back end mission. We want to make sure that we have not only a raising of awareness, but also raising of interest. And that interest has been primarily in the technology field. But I'll tell you, with my experience over the last 15 years that I have seen the industry grow, there has been an increase not only in technical prowess, but also in so many other fields that cybersecurity influences and also impacts. Cybersecurity professionals not only come from a technical background, they come from a very diverse background. Or we want that to grow. And that results in increase of cyber capacity. When we say cyber capacity, it is not just cyber capacity in terms of cyber talent, which is essential. We definitely want to have a growth in the cyber talent, but you can imagine with all the automation happening, there's also capacity to be developed with respect to technology, and that starts with people. When we understand the problems and the issues of this modern world, where each of our access to and connections to our businesses or personal lives are on the palm of our hands in a cell phone, or on a iPhone or smartphone, you can imagine those connections need to be secure. And when you cannot meet in person, which is what the times we are living today, we are meeting in virtual world. This could have been very much a real physical meeting, which Pawan has been a gracious host for many years, and that's how we got started with his summit. I believe we have the opportunity to actually go forward and make that digital connection trusted. And that would be the intent of this journey. And as we start our program in India, our vision is to make sure that the largest capacity of technology service providers and ITS enabled services and the engineers and the developers are also supported in their career and their journey in cybersecurity. But more so, the consumers are more aware, the leaders are more aware, and that's how we have a vertical integration of that trust from the consumers all the way to the decision makers, and all of us can make cyberspace safer. With that intent, I hand it over to my dear friend, Dr. Pawan Duggal, an eminent cyber lawyer, one of the top in the world, and we're proud to have someone from India having such a fame and expertise and authority in this space, but also a great educator and above all a great friend and a leader for the Cyber Future Foundation in India. So, Pawan, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Valmiki, for kind words. Well, today is a very special moment, primarily because the Cyber Future Foundation begins the foray of its activities with specific focus to India. Well, as the name would suggest, it's one of the unique foundations who are not just looking at the future, but who are treating the future as a foundation for preparation and growth today. So no wonder when we talk of cyber future, it's all an very uncertain domain that we are looking in. But clearly, for that uncertain domain, for us to really meet up, it's very essential that we come up with appropriate preparation and appropriate homework. And it's in this context that the entire issue of cyber capacity assumes so much of significance. Well, the coming of COVID-19 has been a game changer in the global ecosystem, primarily because this has been one of the most single important catalyst which has gone ahead and increased the number of people who have been on the digital bandwagon. The internet has not just been the lifeline in the COVID-19 times, but internet also promises to be one of the most destructive mediums that we currently have available. With increasing cybersecurity breaches and the cyber crimes being galore, I think we are living in a different world altogether. In my latest book, entitled New Cyber World Order Post-COVID-19, which I've written during the coronavirus times, I've argued of some irreversible changes happening in cyberspace, which are going to lead to the evolution of a new cyber world order. So if this new cyber world order is going to await us once we finish victoriously the fight against COVID-19, clearly we would need to start preparing for that today. Already when I look at the global scenario and I look at how different countries have started coming up with distinctive coronavirus focused legislations aimed at enhancing cyber capacities, the writing on the wall is all very clear. The writing is that we as the digital stakeholders have to specifically start getting prepared for this enhancing cyber capacity. But expecting us to work in silos in cyber capacity is something that's a clear no-no. Therefore, when the internet has become a ubiquitous connected network where we are dependent on almost all major activities on the internet, and where the critical information infrastructure is intrinsically connected to the internet, I think we have to be prepared for existing ground realities. And focusing on that, this particular roundtable, executive roundtable, is actually touching a very, very crucial element, which pertains primarily to using the public-private partnership model for building and enhancing cyber capacity and innovation in the cyber ecosystem of India. Now, this is one area that a lot of people have not talked of much. A lot of people presume it's a governmental responsibility for enhancing capacities without realizing that India is one of those unique models where the critical information infrastructure is largely both in governmental hands as also in private hands. Therefore, getting to have the perspective of various stakeholders in this kind of a roundtable, we thought was a fantastic way going forward. And who best to kick the deliberations of these roundtable than one man who singularly stands for protection and preservation of cybersecurity in India. General Pant, the National Cybersecurity Coordinator of India, is clearly the father of Indian cyber law, cyber security. A man who is himself responsible for just the coordination and also protection and preservation of the cyber security of various Indian networks, various Indian data, and the Indian citizens, and of course, contributing immensely towards the protection and preservation of cyber sovereignty, as also Indian sovereign interests in cyberspace. General Pant is a person whom I've always admired. I know him for the last more than 2 decades, and a man who's known for his passion, his commitment, and a man who actually walks the walk, who leads from the front. And I thought this would be a wonderful occasion for us to listen to the vision and perspectives of this wonderful visionary, who's not only behind all that we see pertaining to cybersecurity in India, but also who's been instrumental in carving out and developing one of the unique models, being the National Cybersecurity Strategy of 2020, which is going to completely change the landscape. So over to General Pant, the National Cybersecurity Coordinator, Government of India, onto his perspectives, his vision as to what does he look at in terms of the evolving landscape on public-private partnership in the context of cyber capacity and also innovation in the Indian cyber ecosystem. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Pawan, for those kind words. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks for that excellent introduction. I wish you were my boss in the army at some stage. Maybe I could have got one more rank. You know. So, and my compliments to Valmiki Mukherjee, the founder chairman of Cyber Future Foundation. I was just going through your portal, and I must admire your foresight. There are 2 themes that are written there. One is humanity first and cyber next. And this theme is so relevant today. This is exactly what I keep saying in all the webinars, that in these pandemic times, there has to be physical hygiene first and cyber hygiene second. And this is exactly what you are saying, humanity first and cyber next. So my compliments on creating this logo or the theme in your portal. The second one is equally important, which says working together globally for a trusted future in cyberspace. This is where there are, some issues of concern for me when I see what is happening in the United Nations, what is happening in the various the conferences that we have, because the default lines are getting stronger and deeper there, and that is a matter of concern. But the sessions that I find you all have created for today, as per your email sent to me, there were 3 sessions. One is called Advancing Innovation and Entrepreneurship in Cybersecurity in India. Then there is Addressing Visibility and Awareness of Cybersecurity within Businesses. And then there is the Enhancing Cybersecurity Capacity Building through PPP. All are very relevant. And you have a good panel. I have seen that. Excellent speakers. And I'm sure it will be a very interesting discussion. Now, as far as the national scene is concerned, the advancement of cybersecurity in India is being done at various levels. There is the R&D level that is taking place. A lot of work is happening in the academia, in the private sector, work is happening, and of course in the government at different levels, a lot of work is going on. At the R&D level, there are people from my organizations who are driving the research and development in cybersecurity. There are people in the Department of Science and Technology. Some of you may be aware that we have recently launched a 4,000 crore program called the NMICPS, the National Mission on Interdisciplinary Cyber Physical Systems. It comprises of about 25 nodes that are being created all across India on 25 disciplines Cybersecurity is one of them. Robotics is there. Artificial intelligence is there. Human-machine interaction is there. AI is there. Modern communication systems are there. And the aim is to create 500 startups in the next 5 years. Then MIT has got its own research and development funds, and the DRDO is also doing a lot in research and development. So R&D is taking place. A lot of these projects are taking place, and I'm not talking of the National Quantum Mission, another 8,000 crore project that is presently the DPR is being finalized. So at the government level, some major projects are taking place. You're aware of the supercomputing mission, etc. From the capacity building point of view, MIT has got a very big program called ISEA, the Information Security Education and Awareness Program, that touches everyone from the school level to the higher education level, and that also includes a lot of literature that is being published, is also being thrown in the media and various Doordarshan and etc. And finally, then we have the central establishments, that is the overall the national level establishments which are handling the cybersecurity, which are like my office, the Computer Emergency Response Team, NCIPC, the newly created I4C, which has come up very well, that is in the Ministry of Home Affairs, the India Cyber Crime Coordination Center, the National Informatics Center, and also a lot of initiatives are being taken up at the state level. I find the states have suddenly got into action. They have created their own SOCs. They have got they already had the IT cells, but I find a large number of projects, including those based on blockchain and AI, at least okay. In the southern states, I find the progress is more than the northern one. Definitely, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Telangana, Andhra, I find are leading. Gujarat is not far behind. So states are also doing a good job. And finally, we have the sectoral areas, the power sector, the banking finance sector, who also have their own establishments, and the CSIRTs, that is the emergency and the incident response team. So this is the entire fabric at a national level, what is happening in the R&D and what is happening from the architectural point of view. As far as what has changed is concerned, I think both of you have alluded to the pandemic, and two aspects that I find have which have directly affected the cybersecurity. One, of course, is the perimeter. The famous perimeter that was there in the enterprises, where we had the firewall, and behind that the IDS, IPS, anti-APT, etc. All that has gone for a 6 from the work from home environment. So some people say home is a new perimeter. Some people say it is perimeterless security. Some people are saying that identity is the new perimeter. But it is all boiling down to what is leading to the second aspect, that is zero trust. So in this environment, when you're working from home, and we do not know what is the endpoint that you're using, what are the apps you have on your device, what is your home system, routing system, what is the network you're through, then it is boiling down to a zero trust environment where you have to verify everything, including the time that you are taking for that particular app. It's not only the app that you're using. Are you spending more time? What is the data that you are accessing, etc.? So everything is now coming under scrutiny. Your identity, the endpoint, the network, the application, the cloud, and of course VPN security, etc. So this is a new environment of cybersecurity that will be discussed in time to come in the post-pandemic environment. So broadly, there's a lot of action in this field, as you can see, and there's a lot of reliance now being placed on trust. So I mentioned zero trust, but there are issues of the supply chain also. Yesterday, there is a release from the Secretary of State in US, Mike Pompeo, where he's talking of what he calls as a clean path. You may like to go through that, where they are saying that there should be clean apps, there should be clean networks, there should be clean cloud. They are going to clean telcos. In fact, the ultimate, from his point of view, the clean country. So they are saying that they will only deal with such sort of organizations. So this is yesterday's statements, and as I said, this is again linked to what I said earlier about the deglobalization aspects and a different, strategic partnership and alliances taking place. So it's a very interesting time that we are going through. Nobody could have thought that this would happen so soon. What was to happen 5 years later has suddenly happened in 5 weeks. But I must admire the human flexibility as to the way the world has adapted to it. It is amazing at all levels, individual levels, enterprise level, government level, the way we have adapted to I'm only talking the cybersecurity aspect in this pandemic has really been amazing. So on that positive note, I will end my talk now, and I wish the event all success, and my congratulations to both Pavan and Valmiki. Valmiki is a very famous name. I don't know why you shorten it to Val.
Yes,
India, you will get more respect if you say Valmiki. So on that note, thank you very much for having me here, and I wish the event all success. Thank you, Jai Hind.
thank you, General Pant. Thank you for your nice words and kind words. Definitely, a lot of work is happening, and that is under your auspices and leadership. So we are very confident that we will we will be successful in our mission, not only in the establishment of trust, but also awareness and general, innovation, capacity building. All those three bullets that you picked up are absolutely, and it is humanity first, sir, and cyber we will prevail. So thank you so much. I do know you have to run, so please please take care.
No, I'm not running. I have work in my office. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very, very.
Carrying on with those inspiring words, I think we have a pretty strong agenda to go through and live up to the expectation that we have set with General Pants and the rest of the audience and leadership. I believe next an hour or so that we have are going to be very thought-provoking. So please feel free, as we have spoken in many forums before, to be as actionable and challenging as possible. I love a little bit of debate, so welcome that. The outline of this program right now is, we will go through 3 rounds, and probably that's how much time we get with each one of you. This is a round table, so I'm sure there will be exchange of ideas and words. The first round table intervention round is going to be around your executive statement and a little bit of your background. We will take a couple of minutes of each of your thoughts, and then go around the next for the next topic. So next I welcome Lieutenant Colonel Harpreet Vivek, who's basically executing the mission that probably and the mission and vision that probably General Panso nicely outlined, to share his thoughts and his opening remarks and a little background. So, Lieutenant Colonel.
Thank you, Val. The General Pant's instruction now, it's Valmiki again. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Vivek. I'm a defense specialist cyber at NSCS, as the National Security Council Secretariat. I'm with the General Pant's team, and as you can learn from General Pant, the kind of spectrum and the kind of bandwidth that is expected out of this his office is enormous. So it has been an absolute privilege to be able to contribute at least some component to that. And I also want to thank Valmiki for getting me on this particular panel. It's definitely going to be an interesting conversation. And one of the things that Valmiki just said in the start is that we are looking at actionable things. We are looking at actionable components from all of this. So I'm not going to stress much on my background here for many reasons. General Pant brought out in some components what is happening, and in Dr. Dougal in his little intro actually brought out is what is expected from one's view of it. We are looking at capacity, capability, whose responsibility it is, um, and then the whole concept of secure connectivity, trusted. We expect everybody to be on the same platform. Our expectations from the government, from the private sector, from the public sector, from the citizens is we are trying to draw a standard baseline saying that everybody is required to do something. What we actually should be looking at is basing it to their capabilities and capacities. We have something called CVDR, where we are looking at those organizations which are actually capable of contributing more to be able to put in more in our efforts. Now, when you're looking at capability and capacity, I just want to give you a picture, as in we are looking at cybersecurity as a defensive thing, a typical mentality when somebody says cybersecurity, we are looking at something defensive. But if I want to pitch it in a background of a country which has 1.2 billion subscribers, which has over 550 million internet subscribers, we are looking at almost covering 55% of the world's IDES market. Are we really just looking at cybersecurity as one defensive aspect, which is a part of something that has to be done to a network? Or is this the new ecosystem that we are looking at? We are looking at business coming out of it. We are looking at the tech sector getting involved in R&D. We are looking at hackathons coming out with brand new ideas, which a lot of contribution coming to this side. So with this as the background, are we just going to look at cybersecurity as one component of it, one component of defensive measures, one component of keeping our business secure or continuing to ensuring business continuity? Or are we looking at brand India now? Are we looking at building indigenous capability and capacities which kind of bring out an ecosystem around it, which we say that India is now well poised to become a leader in this, where we are in setting up our students coming out of the colleges, when they're coming into startups, when they're coming up with business ideas, when companies have to look at risk analysis, where do we look as India fitting into that particular component? And what I add with the, you are all aware what has happened in the last 1 month or so. The data is now a national resource. So when you add all of these components, what is the first step that we talk about? We talk about an organization which can facilitate, an entity which can facilitate, and an entity which can execute. So when you say an entity which can facilitate, the first idea that comes to us is the government. But we can't give both the facilitation and the execution solely responsible on the shoulders of the government. If you just list the possible things that needs to be done, you'll find that it's almost impossible for one entity to drive everything. We need support. We need the private players to start pitching up. We need them to come to the platform and say that we are well poised. We have established ourselves in the market. Now tell us what you want us to get done and how do you want it to be done. And if we get that right partnership, if we get the public-private partnership, whether it is in terms of R&D, whether it's in terms of cyber hygiene, whether it's in terms of education, whether it's in terms of cyber defense products, service sector, I think if we get this bit right, a lot of the difficulties, a lot of the stumbling blocks kind of will get passed over. So in that context, that was a conversation that I already had with Valmiki earlier, was that I think this is one component that we can look at, and this conversation that we are having is step one in that direction. where we can sensitize the industry to saying that we have a vision and we need you to help us execute it and bring India to that particular cornerstone where we can say that not just it is IT or ITE, it is security and the complete ecosystem around it that we are international leaders. That's all on my end.
Well, Lieutenant Harkit, thank you so much for laying down the vision. I think there is definitely an ask and action for us there as a joint multi-stakeholder organization. So looking forward to engaging with you as we have discussed. And so going forward, let's move on to Dr. Durga Prasad Dubey. As I think you heard the side of the government entities and the national security and the strategy vision. As a veteran in the security industry, as well as being one of the largest, the chief information security officer for one of the largest organizations in India, I wanted to hear your thoughts about and your background, of course, sir.
Okay. So am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Okay. So Balmiki and Jeet, thanks a lot for giving us a chance to be part of this panel. About my background, I actually am the CISO of Reliance Industries, Reliance Group, and most of my career I have been in Reserve Bank of India. I spent almost 2 decades in Reserve Bank of India, and then finally decided to come to the private sector. And incidentally, all through my career, I have been a practitioner. Besides a few stints where I was kind of consulting and also doing a bit of research and development in cyber. And also I did my PhD in cybersecurity, and my area of interest is cybersecurity capability maturity model and performance predictions. And coming to my thought here, I'm very passionate about certain things like when everybody talks about startups and why is it not happening in India and why it is not happening the way it is happening in other countries, why it is not happening in India. I did some kind of a SWOT analysis of a 2-dimensional SWOT analysis of India cyber. The India cyber SWOT analysis that I did. I found that there's a lot of strength, like there is a lot of necessity, there is a lot of strength, but let's understand what is that problem, what is happening. Like if you look at why the startups are not let's understand a couple of things. Like if you look at the percentage of failure of the startups, the security startups, it's pretty high in India. If I say failure, what I mean is companies, the cyber startup, who are not able to make a mark globally in terms of their reach, in terms of their valuation, etc. I have not seen a single Indian cyber security company which is valued nearer to $1 billion. Where I have seen same people shifting the base from India and doing the same kind of business in US and then becoming a billionaire, and then their valuation becoming more than $1 billion. So what could be the reason? The reason, I think, this is my perception of the reason, like what happens in another part of this world, that the peer interaction is very excellent. I mean the network. And this helps in understanding the market very well. And this also helps us designing a better quality product. And we have many examples that where we have seen that the product which is coming from there, they are much more mature product, and they have understood the requirement of the industry much better than us. That precisely because of their exposure. The second thing is what I feel is the business model, the breadth and depth of the market. Globally, it is very, very transparent. In fact, they do all sort of things before even they start a project. They begin a startup. They understand the business model. They do a lot of research on the breadth and depth of the market, and then they start a startup. And somehow the acceptance is much better. That could be because of their maturity over the years, and the marketing effort. They're pretty good. Like they market their product very well, and And above all, if overall startup environment is much better in the country like US, Israel, and Singapore. Overall startup environment is much better. So what I think is, in short, what we need to do if, in such kind of things, like if you see, generally there is a need for promotion of cybersecurity startup culture. If you look at Singapore way, what they do is, which they started 2-3 years before, is like they do a proper test of the aptitude of the project, and then take the so-called future entrepreneurs, they fund them, then keep them for 2-3 years, and ask them to ideate. And then after the 2-3 years, they don't really be worried about their funding or anything. They are funded by the government. And after 2-3 years, whatever durations, and they would come out with their idea. If the idea is accepted very well, then they will be funded by the government, and there will be a public-private partnership, and the startup will start. If it is not working, it's not working. These guys will come out and they will start doing other things. And young people, they don't have any risk. 2-3 years, they can really try. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, they will pursue other careers. And another thing which I feel is, like, personally, I feel that academics is one of the best place to start to evangelize this idea and create startup hubs, like what is happening in Israel. The Tel Aviv University is actually the hub of startup. And it's my thought, don't take it otherwise. Professor Satpathy is there, so I have nothing against IITs, but they have already reached a stage. So what I'm saying is, when you are picking the schools, don't pick up only IITs. Pick up the schools in the remote areas. It solves multiple social purposes, and that is where the public-private partnership really helps. Then what I feel is, we should develop the business model. Uh, Global marketing and government can really help in these kind of things. I don't have any specific recommendation for the government, because I'm too small to really recommend for the government at this forum. But I feel that government has a lot of things to do, and what General Pant said is very, very encouraging. And actually, what should happen is, all those things which are talking, it should start when the idea is getting conceptualized. And learning should start from the secondary school syllabus. And one thing which I must say here, which I have been seeing always for the last 10 years, that when the learning and the syllabus come, people start talking about TCP/IP, people start talking about reverse malware analysis. Nobody talks about how to protect data. Nobody talks about what makes a cybersecurity works. So cybersecurity is more, not only an interdisciplinary subject, it's a transdisciplinary subject. So I think that the upper you go in cybersecurity education, the less should be the technical content. So the technical content should start at the secondary school itself. I don't think, I am not demeaning anything, but I don't think that somebody should understand Java, it needs to be a BTech or a MTech. Somebody should understand Python, just a secondary school person can understand. So what is really important is what makes a cybersecurity works. So these are all very, very important things. And I want to really flag this thing at this point in this then when the next term comes, I may be having some other points. Thank you.
But thank you, Dubey. It's definitely, great points in terms of the observations that we have from the other countries. And when you look at, India as an ecosystem, I believe that ecosystem has its kind of outreach to other parts of the world. And I believe those learnings can be very essential. And learning early, and left shifting we talk about in business, but left shifting in academia and education curriculum is definitely essential. So thank you for your thoughts. Next, let's go to Burgess Cooper. We share an interesting. He's a colleague at my day job at EY, and so I kind of get an appreciation of the breadth of issues and challenges that he sees. And Burgess, with your background of being a CISO at the two largest organizations, I think you have a unique perspective. So I can't wait to hear from you. Up to you, sir.
Thank you so much, Valmiki, and much appreciate the opportunity to work together with you on this great cause and also with you here today. So I'll give my 2 minutes in the form of a journey. Right from time, few of us, you could count in India, the top CISOs, if any. Durgaji was there, Vishal, Sunil, a few of us were there. And CISOs were mainly in IT companies, Max Tech or telecom and banks, right? And you could count the number of CISOs in a few hands. And few of us just meet and define the term CISO. And I can see Durgaji smiling, you know, as a mentor, he used to sort of lead some of these things. So from there to where banks were only attacked, and then maybe IT and maybe telecom companies, and that's maximum it was. To now, and thanks to the media, where security is now a focus area, not as much as it should be, but probably increased drastically for. Thanks to the board level members whom we train to ask right questions, who are putting focus. But let me ask a question, and we say as UI, the better the question, the better the answer, the better the world works. Where is security really required now? And the answer could be, if I have to explain it, it could be in multiple areas. Clearly, yes, banks, telecom, big giants need the security, but they also have the wherewithal to afford the security. A big opportunity and an area which has to be addressed is the what we call as mid markets, the SME sector. Probably who cannot afford a full-time CISO, less alone being an incident responder and a threat analyst and a VAPT and an AppSec guy and a red teamer and the whole list goes on. How would companies like these, who are also victim to the same advanced attacks which a bank and telecom would be, and we've seen the last COVID times which has forced people to become more digital in the last 90 days than in the last 9 years. How would companies like these, pharma, healthcare, manufacturing, have been the most attacked? There have been ransomware attacks, there have been attacks for data exfiltration, there have been all types of attacks. So how do companies like these respond to that? Who helps them? Okay, and that's probably an area where we could be more collaborative. You could have more opportunity in CISO as well, but I'm not talking business. I'm saying genuinely, how do you help a small, mid-size or a smaller size SME who just basically expands months on month to pay the business loans to cover the cost to go to the production. Now, a company like that suddenly affected by ransomware in a month or even 5 days downtime. How would a company like that be geared enough to respond? And I will leave this discussion with a question mark. Probably we can have more discussions. But security, where it's most required now, probably is to address this mid-tier segment. And how do we help them? Especially more in the India focus, more in the world, but again in India. That's all from my side, Valmiki. Thank you again for the opportunity.
And thank you, Burgess. I think leading with questions is definitely essential, because first we need to understand the problem statement before we can actually formulate a solution. So if you ask my good friend Harold, who's probably also on this on the list here, is we started with the good questions, and then jointly I believe we have been able to ponder on some, and you brought up a very essential element, which is the small and medium enterprises, which forms the backbone of the countries. I mean, the large organizations are there, and they form a significant sector of the economy. But I believe it's the small and medium enterprises who cannot afford, don't have the wherewithal. So definitely, this in fact is a plug for I definitely want to insert a plug that we have been working on a small and medium business cyber care package. So on the entire summer, our interns were focused on understanding the problem and also preparing a cyber care package so as to put together the tools and techniques and the processes and some level of managed support services that can provide. So we are launching that in the US as a pilot. I believe that's something that we can expand to the Indian ecosystem as well. So thank you. Very good
that's from UI or Cyber Future Foundation?
That is from Cyber Future Foundation. So very well. I believe Uday is also on this call. Let me ensure that you're able to hear him.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here, Valmiki.
Hi, Uday. Thank you for joining us. As a sector hopping CISO, so as Burgess and Dr. Dubey also mentioned, right? I think you and I have had this chat about how can we make sure cybersecurity is visible and impact, can bring its impact to the cybersecurity, from a cybersecurity to a business. So I would love for your thoughts to be on this table today, when we are talking about ensuring that the general business and the organizations that you serve, as you move from one sector to the other, you probably emphasize on the fact that there has to be an kind of understanding and appreciation of the cybersecurity functions, not only just from the CISO as a responsible officer, but also from the rest of the organization. So please share your thoughts.
Okay. Thanks, Valmiki, for the opportunity, and hi, everyone. So, primarily the sector which I represent is, except a couple of verticals, the rest of them are non-regulated. So, except the defense one and the power companies, which are relatively regulated, rest of them do not need to follow a particular regulation per se or a standard to comply with stringent IT security norms. And that sometimes creates issues, because in those organizations they always have a priority, more priority towards business than security. So the visibility of security in such organizations comparatively lesser as compared to defense, power, and finance businesses. Now, to get the attention of senior management is very tough in such kind of situations. Fortunately, the organization which I'm in, there is a good amount of visibility, and the CEO himself, keeps on emphasizing about cybersecurity in multiple forums, and that way we are able to create a structure which has the necessary attention and budgets also towards security. But yeah, that problem is there in terms of getting the right visibility towards cybersecurity from senior management. So we have done multiple things in that regards. We keep on meeting the cyber. We keep on meeting the senior management from various verticals on a regular basis. We have created frameworks, and we have quantified the cybersecurity maturity scores, both at strategic level and operational level, and we keep on give the figures in terms of the losses which the organization can go through if the controls are not implemented. And since this is a consistent communication which is happening, there is a good amount of visibility and attention from the senior management, and that has helped quite a lot in L&T per se. As far as the other points are concerned, we are in tough situation right now in terms of the cost constraints, etc. So we have emphasized a lot to work on with the Make in India kind of organization. So at this moment, we have association with around 10 odd Make in India cybersecurity companies, and I also keep on experimenting by hiring the interns from engineering colleges who are willing to work on cybersecurity, and they're willing to work on open source component, and they build various engines for malware analysis or black box, gray box application security scanning, automations, then the simulated phishing campaigns. So a lot of things which we are doing currently, which is keeping us busy in COVID days. So these are the things which we are currently at this moment, and to some extent, we're seeing the success out of it. So that's it from my side at this moment, Valmiki.
Thank you. I really appreciate the emphasis on hiring interns, and also the Make in India aspect, because that's where the true innovation starts, and giving opportunity as you are doing is essential for that, enhancing the advancing the success as well as enhancing their future. So thank you very much. I think in terms of making it happen, a lot of this actually starts as the way you mentioned about as early as possible, from the academia side. And I really have a soft corner for the next, from where this next speaker comes from. In my hometown is Bhubaneswar, so I couldn't really, whatever we could do, we actually dragged Dr. Sathpathy out of not being well to getting into this event. But hopefully, you're feeling well, sir, and we're looking forward to your intervention and thoughts.
Thank you, Valmiki, and other panelists. And I think I should say good evening and good morning, depending on where you are. So I'm an associate professor at IIT Bhubaneswar. So before coming to Bhubaneswar for several years, I was in General Motors in Bangalore. So at IIT Bhubaneswar, we have a cybersecurity research group where 3 professors and a bunch of PhD students and master students. So we are doing some research, so I will enumerate them one by one. So one is related to ransomware, right? And so when we are using solid state devices, secondary memory, so they have a property that once you read a block and modify it and you want to write it, you have to write at a separate place. You cannot write at the same place. So, and for ransomware, we'll take a block, encrypt it, and deposit at a different place. And too much of encryption increases the entropy in the device. So from that, you will know that there is possibly a ransomware attack. And since the old pages are still existing, the old pages are ultimately given back to the garbage collector. Since they're still existing, so there is high chance that we can recover from ransomware attacks. So we are doing some research in this direction, and then some research on network security, particularly in software-defined networks, the various attacks on controllers. So we are trying to have machine learning and game theory algorithms to address those issues. And some research on cryptography. In cryptography, we are focusing computation over ciphertext. So when you encrypt it, so after performing some computation, you have to decrypt it, and you will apply some computation on normal data. But what we are trying, instead of doing this going back and forth, then you can perform computation over the cipher data, so that it will be much more efficient and much more elegant. And it will avoid a lot of encryption, decryption. So it is good in that sense from security point of view. Then some other students are working on database security. And we are also trying to do some security modeling. When we are going for designing a software, we are taking security as a requirement and trying to put it at a modeling level, and using various techniques, we'll say that the software that will be developed will have no security issues. No security issues means the securities that is we have defined. So in addition to this, in this lockdown period, we have built an app called Mosahaya. So because during the lockdown, there are a lot of migrants and they're coming back to their own place. So how to give them employment? So in this sense, in this context, we have built an app called Mosahaya. And for this app, we have got around 1 million data, 1 million workers data from UP, and several thousands of data from Odisha, and few in several thousand in Maharashtra also. So we have, through this app, we have employed around 300 people in various organizations like L&T, Sapurji, and various construction companies. So now, I think General Pont was talking about cleanup. So the first day we opened this app, there were 40,000 spurious users. So now we took a challenge that how to make it this app a clean app. So a lot of security persons are brought in, and we are working on that, and we are planning to make it that most applications secure, as much as secure as possible. And I think Dr. Dubey or somebody, Dr. Dubey probably talked about the failure of startups. So the most have application we are doing is a startup, and our aim is very high. For example, we want to employ people in Middle East, and also we are in touch with Canadian agencies. So a lot of volunteers from IITs, from many students, research scholars, and many industry executives have come together to build this app. But then we got 1 million data from Uttar Pradesh, and initially we faced many challenges in employing them. For example, companies like L&T told that we won't accept workers directly. We'll get through contractors. Now, how to track contractors and through them, so that became another challenge. But though a lot of we are working on this on a voluntary basis, we have received no money from anybody. So now everything is on voluntary basis, and we hope someday money will come. So these are our activities, and I think I will stop here. I have some other things to tell, maybe in the next
Sir,
next round.
what is the name of the app?
More Sahaya.
Oh, Sahaya. More Sahaya. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Sir, you should have applied for. Recently, we had one contest of this kind of applications where we gave award to a lot of government, a lot of IITs and all. They have done this kind of work in pandemic situations. Dr. Pavan also as one of the speaker in that conference where we give the awards. Incidentally, I was one of the jury in that.
I see.
So
government
there
is
is the connection
government
that we
and
are
IIT
looking for.
excellent job.
So hopefully this will lead to the next journey, Dr. Satpathy, right? The relevant work, very timely in terms of making an impact. And trust me, probably nobody knows that the pleasure and pain of running volunteer projects, right? So CFF is a volunteer organization. So from top to bottom, everyone is a volunteer, and we definitely want to make sure that you get the right amount of visibility, so that those that can actually make a difference and give you a voice, Dr. Dubey and Uday and Burgess, and then from the government.
Yeah, I think now I'll be in touch with Dr. Pavan and Dr. Dubey.
Yes,
talk about it.
Incidentally, sir, I am from Bhubaneswar, so I will talk to you.
Okay.
That is another common connection that we learned. Excellent.
More and more people are from there. Huh? It's some magic.
I realized afterwards that Valmiki went to the same school where I went. I realized of late.
Yes. So we will carry the tradition forward. Well, fantastic. No, thank you for your thoughts, and also Dr. Satpathy. I know IITs are exceptional institutions. You're doing great work. We want to make sure that the students get the opportunity, and also IITs programs are getting the visibility that in the industry they do. And you can imagine if IITs are in this state, right? Then what about the other 1,000 engineering colleges or management colleges that are out there? And as we expand the program, we're going to look for more and more diversity in terms of the fields and domains. So hopefully an ISB or a IIIT will join us in the next conversation, so that we can have that. So well, I'll conclude this round and take it to Nag, who's a great friend and a pretty wide observer in boards, and as a lot of does a lot of writing. We work together a lot, and I wanted to get his thoughts as to kind of what was the observation across this several discussions that we had. I'll turn to you.
Thank you, Valmiki. Now I need to change. When we are speaking back in the US, we'll call you Val, but you are Valmiki. Obviously, being one of the first authors coming from India who gave the Ramayana, so we'll continue the tradition calling you Valmiki. I need to congratulate General Pant giving us very encouraging and inspiring opening remarks. So thank you, sir, for that. And I know Valmiki from the last couple of years. He invited me for when the CFF Foundation initiated their annual events. I was so overwhelmed with the response with the U.S. law enforcement agencies in Dallas, and when we collaborated again in World Economic Forum event in Davos. Inviting the large business leaders talking about the cyber challenges. So it was a very, I'm so glad that I'm joined today and being with the distinguished panel here with an India team. My background is I would split it into two. One is entire my education is schooling and back in India, where General Pant said from the combined state of Andhra Pradesh, where my father and my parents were in the academia and run the education institutions as administrator, established the entire ecosystem of education from over 4 decades back in Andhra Pradesh. So carrying that legacy, in the last 45 years when I moved to the US, on the boards and working with the global financial institutions with the banking regulations and risk management, and continuing the passion of teaching and academia. I'm on the board for few education institutions, the universities in the US, and also on the publication side, I published my white papers and also being the critic on the risk management, the enterprise-wide risk management point of view. So happy to share those details as we continue our dialogue. But one suggestion I would like to give to Val and the entire team, we would like to see more women participation on these panels, because when we see the workforce and the participation of the women needs to be as part of our cybersecurity. So without the women contribution, I think we will be left alone how much we continue our discussion. So we will encourage women leadership to forthcoming on this event and be on the panel also to shape the India in the future for the security point of view. So as looking at the time, I happy to hand back to the Val, and we'll continue the conversation as we continue. Thank you, Val.
Thank you, Nag. Again, a very, very important point that you raised, and thanks for poking me in the eye, though. That's I needed that, and I think our leaders in India also. And if you go back in the history of CFF, we literally had a 1:1 ratio of our panelists and speakers, right? And I think that is something that's starkly visible here. Again, pardon my ignorance, or maybe I'm not seeing that the visibility and the recognition of women in not only in cyber but also in the different spheres. I really give example of India having done a very good job, and there's always room for improvement of getting women into the workplace, into engineering, into technical fields. I think it's an example, but that example is not here, and we want to make sure that happens, right? So thank you, Nag. That's I hope this panel can help.
If I may add, I actually invited the India Intel CEO, Nivriti Roy. I'm sure maybe just joined as an attendee, but I'm sure women leaders like her or a number of others will definitely contribute in the national building on the cyberspace. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you. I mean, there is always a room for improvement, and this is our moment to make that difference, right? So, I want to emphasize that, when we do the summit in October, and this year it will be virtual, we have that representation and work towards that. So, thank you. The second round of interventions, I would love to go around this table to get a sense of what is your expectation and also what is your contribution in terms of the public-private partnership journey that we want to go. As I have spoken with each of you individually, and was emphasized by General Pant here, and in each of you in your own sphere of life, what we have seen is, we are pretty busy in our day jobs, and we try to contribute to that. That is pretty much why we can do what we want to do, and nobody understands that those in this forum. But I believe there is a serious give and take here, right? I mean, what we contribute comes back to us, and that giving back is essentially not just in the shape of voluntary work and charity, but I think there's a real economic gain to making sure that the innovators get the opportunity to expand their startup if their startups are economically feasible and also revenue generating, but also take advantage of the ecosystem that I think with the national cybersecurity strategy is being built to ensure that more and more consumers as well as the general public gets the benefit of it. And then probably the app that Dr. Satpathy mentioned is a great example of that. So I want to go around the next few minutes with each of you, starting with Dr. Dubey, if you will, to get your expectation from a public-private partnership. What would you want this body that we put together to do?
Sorry, I was. So if I go back 10, 15 years, when I was in the Reserve Bank of India, so I was deputed to one institute called Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology, where we started something which is the information sharing in the line of what is happening in US. So we started that information sharing for the banking and banking sector, and it finally then government started doing it for regulated sector. They started doing it for telecom. They started doing it for banking, and the same thing is there in IDRPT, and it happened well. And I think it happened well because there was a push from the regulator. But as Uday was saying, like there are a lot of important sectors like manufacturing, like power, like energy, all sort of things. Today, the sharing of threat information is very less. Although government has a lot of machineries, they ask us to do that, and we give it to multiple agencies in the government. I'm Colonel Virk. Same information we give to 3-4 agencies of the government. But what I think is, like, we have a clear case of starting information sharing and analysis with a public-private partnership for different sectors, and so that will really help. So sharing of information is becoming very, very important today. Is extremely important today, because gone are those days when if one pharma company or any kind of company fails, another company will take the market share. But today, if one company has some problem because of cyber, I'm sure the neighboring company will also get infected if they don't take the real decisions and they don't have the real kind of intelligence. So that is one of the reasons where sharing of information is very, very important. So I'm sure government may be thinking in this way, whether they should have sharing and analysis center which can be done with public-private partnership. That is one point. The second point is, we all have been talking about testing. So it started with testing equipment in telecom, and government has done a lot of work in testing equipments in telecom. But equally, there are a lot of strategic sectors like banking, financial services. So we don't have a perfect state-of-the-art testing mechanism, accredited testing mechanism, where we can get an assurance that this system takes care of some standards and doesn't have some kind of a loophole or something which can create security problem. That kind of thing, although it has started, so I think that is where public-private partnership can play a huge role in starting testing center for multiple sectors. And the third thing which I feel is like, as I already told, like this education sector, education itself is predominantly in private sector today. Apart from a lot of important government schools, there are a lot of private schools who are doing very well also. So there is a need for really collaborating with them, starting building a cadre. So you can only do a cadre building if when they are at the bot stage, like when they are at the student stage. So when they are at the student stage, engage with them. Uh, and then start doing brilliant things. I have a lot of experience. Was Uday was saying, Valmiki was also saying that internship, almost all everybody has been doing that. We kind of do a proper crowdsourcing mechanism where we involve schools for their for hackathons, for a lot of CTFs we do. We include a lot of important schools, and it helps us in many ways. First thing is we develop a pipeline for resources, so we can actually make a funnel and then try to recruit from them. And the second thing is we actually engage them in developing products and developing solutions, and their personal experience is very encouraging. I always feel that these guys, they really are fantastic people, and if you really mold them well, they can do wonders. So we have a fantastic experience in engaging with schools from the beginning. In fact, we have helped schools in making their curriculum, which is required for us. So making the curriculum, helping them in the teaching, doing joint project with them, and finally doing a hackathon and giving them some kind of a incentive that they are winning the hackathon, and all sort of things we are doing. So all the stakeholders are becoming happy and everybody is getting benefited. It's like an IPL match where everybody gets benefited because of this. So that's what we have been doing.
Well, I think that's excellent. In terms of actually making it happen, this may be a moment also. I share that Pawan and I have been talking about making sure that we have a central institute or and then kind of zonal bodies that we can bring the curriculum work that we have done at CFF and the Global Commission on Cybersecurity Education, which we sponsored, and actually work with you and the industry, be the bridge. The industry and the academia be the bridge to ensure that the curriculum that is followed in the school, and along with the the great research that the ITs and the other institutions are doing, to make sure they're more close to what the industry needs now. So very solid point, well taken. That is an action that we are that are already in the journey, I think, other parts of the globe. So we definitely bringing to India. So thank you, Dr. Dubey. Let's move to Burgess. And in terms of your background, you just had, I'll allude to something recently that you did in terms of workshopping with several industry leaders to put together the thoughts from pandemic as well as what you give back. What is your expectation that in terms of participation, both within India and the global ecosystem? What can we do?
Two parts. Clearly, the need for it, which is is no-brainer. We've done sessions like these and more to ensure we get there. The how-to part will be broken down into multiple levels. What should we do as consultants and people who sort of help companies get secure? That's one part. What should CISOs, CROs, CSOs do from a company perspective, from breaking down the problem to small actionable areas so that each team and party can do something. What should government do and what should academia do? So multiple stuff, and I don't have an answer right now, but clearly, if you can share, Valmiki, if you want, we can share some of those diagrams which we displayed. We had about 16 sessions. Durgaji was there in some of the fireside chats. We had the theme of now, next, and beyond. What should companies do now in cyber? And now is nearly over. The next 3 months, and after that, in the next 9 months, what to do? And the great learnings from about 1,100 CISOs, CIOs across 16, and all have been drawn in a caricature. And Valmiki send that as the outcome of this session. Lots of learnings are captured in that. It's about 12 to 14 slides. Go through that, give some of the ideas on what companies are doing and what they should do in the future.
Absolutely, and that was a great kind of artifact, and I think the way it was captured, and what I'm alluding to is something that Burgess ran in fireside chats and workshops that collected the thoughts in a very visual form, right? I mean, human beings are pretty much visual. If you show them, then then you can realize and probably do better. So thank you, Burgess.
Want to show a few other Valmiki if you have time, or can send an attachment to everyone.
Yeah, that lot of learning from that session. Me being part of that session, a lot of things we have learned from that session, because it started in the beginning of the pandemic. One thing clearly I learned from that session is like when everybody was talking of zero trust, there was discussion that in India, if you start talking zero trust, people will think that you don't have any trust. So you better change the name zero trust. You can do something, but don't pitch it as zero trust. Pitch it as something different. That is where we pitched it as R trust, not zero trust.
Yeah. So the very good point. By the way, for those attending and those in the panel, I just want to throw it that and Dr. Dubey and I were with the panelists in a different session. Gerhard Eschelbach, he was one of the kind of the proponents of the idea, right? So we are having a session, a CFF lunch hour live on 28th, I believe, where we're going to have this conversation around demystifying zero trust, right? Because cybersecurity is a business of trust. We said trust and verify, trust but verify. Now it's trust and verify, and now it's going to zero trust. So what is it, right? So I think
Valmiki once here said trust, verify, but get me the artifacts.
Show me.
Show me the artifact. Show me, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Burgess. Thanks, Dubeji. Well, Uday, I'd like your thoughts about kind of a continuity of this discussion about of the expectation. I think the industry is doing a lot, and you as a leader within that, within your organization as well as within industry, right? What are the expectations that you have that we should collectively do and strive towards in especially in the Indian ecosystem?
I think Durgaji and Burgess have shared great thoughts on sharing information, bringing them on same testing platform. So I will basically, and this is great thoughts basically. So from my perspective, I will talk in a different angle. So we have a lot of projects going on in this PPP area, and whether it is metro or power or construction in our defense. So what happens is how cybersecurity is relevant and important is that every industry has a different guideline. So like in metro, there's a metro board basically. Then for defense, it is ILDCA and NCIPC guidelines. So a lot of things, are coming independently. So there is no single standard platform per se. And also in some of the areas, very important things are missed. Like, whether it is, the organization which is, providing the service, or whether the organization which is owning the data, who is collecting the data. So for example, when a person is traveling through a metro and he's providing credit card information, or we're developing something for Indian government, for Indian defense, then who will own the IP and who will provide the necessary protection to the data? Some of these are very gray areas as far as the guidelines are concerned. And also in the recent pandemic situation, etc., there is good importance on creating a well-documented crisis management plan and doing war room exercises, etc., making people aware. Then also cyber insurance. All those things are missing from those guidelines. So what my expectation over here at the government level is basically, if there is a uniform standard which can come out as a mandate for industries to follow, then it will provide a great platform for not only the Make in India startup and other companies, but also industries to follow one particular standard, then and comply accordingly. So that will help us a lot.
Well, thank you, Uday. I think you are directly involved in many, and I believe taking some of that experience, bringing it to the industry, will definitely be meaningful and essential, right? So so let's move to Harkirat, and getting a sense of from the government, and national cybersecurity strategy. You're involved in many of this. Actually giving and facilitating the platform from a government standpoint. So your thoughts around what would be the expectation that we should fulfill as a community? Currently you're on mute. Sorry.
Yeah, I think I forgot about that. Okay, so Valmiki, before I kind of get there, I have a bone to pick with you on this. We have 5-6 panelists, depending on how much they are interested, how much is their involvement in this, against one from the public sector, from the government sector, that way. So I think I would have required more time actually to handle all of the questions, because I've kind of run out of space on my page that I'm working on. And I actually want to answer a lot of the components, a lot of the issues which have been brought up. So I'm just trying to go through the very congested page already. First thing I just want to bring out is, typically when you talk about cybersecurity, we say it is a domain with massive amount of cross linkages, and I want to correct that and say that it is massive amount of cross domain dependencies. I think I would also pitch the fact that it is one of those probably a domain with the maximum number of cross domain dependencies. I'll pick up so many topic issues which we typically come up with. The point was brought out as when you are talking about maturity of a product. Dr. Dubey had brought that out, relating to whether startups, how effective they are in India, things like that. Now that becomes a question of whether that is a tech problem or is that a business problem. And I do genuinely believe that is a business problem, and Dr. Dubey also believes exactly the same thing. So where do we solve this problem? Do we solve that in the cybersecurity sector? Do we solve that in the business process? When we are teaching them about business, are we teaching them about business to handle cybersecurity? We had a separate conversation, which others may not be privy to, talking about soft skills of CISOs. These are also another aspect which we need to address on. It's not just the cybersecurity vertical which can handle it. We are talking about maturity of a product. Now, when we talk about maturity of a product, are we really discussing that during the academic portion, where we teach students how to do secure software development, or are we teaching them about UX, whether the people are bringing out product which has high adoptability? So I hear a lot of these questions. Why can't we have an Indian TikTok? Why can't we have an Indian Facebook? And whenever we try and answer that question, we look at it as a tech problem. It's not a tech problem, it's a business problem. The same thing comes in R&D. How much is the PPP actually getting involved in R&D? Are we able to convert the R&D that is being done in the country, even from the government sector, to products which can be kind of pushed under brand India? How much is the private sector actually getting involved in IP generation? How much of it is genuine R&D which is coming up, or just repackaging the same component somewhere else? So when you kind of go through all of this, you kind of come to a point that there is a gap. There's a gap between what the industry wants, that we want a place where I can have good startups. I want a place which I have standards. I want a place which I have better testing. But to build all of this, you require an ecosystem. So I need to know what is my launch point? My launch point for Reliance is going to be very different than a launch point for a startup coming out of a garage. He wants everything ready-made. Reliance may not be able to get everything ready-made, but they are expected to build. Sorry, so I'm just kind of using that as an example. So there are a lot of, it cannot be a common denominator for every industry in the country saying that I want something ready-made from the government and this is how we are going to work ahead. Different responsibilities are there with different sectors, and we expect them to at least give us a clarity of what they want from us. Okay, if you say we want cyber insurance, and I'm not able to go into a lot of details of what the strategy is because it's not been made public, and so I can say a lot of the issues that have been discussed today have been addressed in a very holistic manner in this strategy itself. But when we talk about standards, when we talk about testing and certification and PPP getting involved in it, when we're talking about academics and then PPP getting involved in it, these are places that is not a very clear-cut line. It's not a simple black and white kind of scenario. I'll give you a typical example of testing. Now, you can't have standards on testing without having the capacity and capability to do testing. But you can't build capacity and capability to do testing. You can't build the labs if you don't have standards, because nobody will come to them and say that, okay, I want to get some testing done. Why I'm not coming? I'm coming voluntarily. Nobody's going to do that. So this is a very intricate process with a lot of dependencies upon each other, and we have to kind of have a. It's like we can't do this on a waterfall model. We have to do this in a very agile model kind of a possibility, where we take very, very small steps, then go back and forth on this particular thing and touch each of these issues and see, this is what you wanted, we got here, what can you do, what can we do, and then take each of these steps ahead. It is the problem happens is, when the expectations come in a waterfall model that I want this and I'm not going to do anything till I get this. So that is one of my suggestions actually going forward, was that when we look at the deliverables which Valmiki was talking about, I want to see that if we can do this step-by-step activity. So by that very understanding, we can pick each topic and kind of go through in discussions in the future, is that what exactly do you need facilitated in that? How do we make each of those components happen? And this has to be a vision which this has to be something which has to come from the private sector, saying that this is how we are expecting, and we kind of hold each other's hand while walking through it. And coming back to Dr. Dubey's point, because this was something which has been irking me also, is threat intelligence sharing, and I want to say that we are in that direction. I know that there are procedural issues involved, and there's also a lot of issues relating to anonymization, because if I'm getting threat intelligence from one organization, I don't want the other organization to feel that I lose some sort of business if other people are aware that this threat is emanating from my domain. So there are a lot of these components which need to be stretched. There are multiple agencies which are there around it who are handling these issues. And the National Cybersecurity Coordinator's Office is actively dealing in aspects like these. And it has been, at least for the duration that I've been, it has been an endeavor on my end to make sure that, to a point that I have personally reached out to various organizations saying that, okay, there's a problem, let's kind of sort this out. So we are in that cycle, and I'm going to try and make sure that at least that portion, which is personally my domain, that portion is kind of addressed in some manner. Again, we have many things to discuss. I'm watching the time at the same thing in the background. Burgess, thank you for putting the clock there, and back to you, Valentin.
Yeah, no, very well. I think all good points, and especially on the information and threat intelligence sharing. That's been that's a long journey. I can assure you that's been something that where we are going to probably need to both work on the government and the private sector side. We have to be very closely aligned We have been part of the ISAC journey here and the information sharing and analysis organization journey that DHS had in the US, had the DHS ISAO ISO standards organization, which CFF was part of. I think absolutely a very significant point that needs to be catered to, and happy to work with you on that, both from the private sector side as well as from the NGO side. I'll go to probably give a few minutes to Dr. Satpathy to, you heard all this, but all of that starts with the bright and young entrepreneurs and engineers that you're kind of teaching. Last few words from you, Dr. Satpathy, on what your expectations are. How can you make this successful? Not sure if you're I think yeah, there are connection problems. So anyway, we'll take this forward on another forum, I believe, and also background. I can barely see or hear.
No, sorry, I think I was mute.
Oh, okay, all right, sorry.
I think in this context, I want to appreciate the problem raised by Dr. Dubey and Lieutenant Colonel Beck that security testing, state-of-the-art security testing mechanism, and this is really a very good research area. And in this context, industry, academics, so they have to come together, because this is a real challenging problem. Unless good case studies are given by industry, it's very difficult to tackle this kind of issues. And we collaborate with industry because industry people come to us with specific problems, like we have a access control list in our organization, and whatever product we have developed, how to ensure that it meets that. So we have done some work in that direction. So I think at this moment I want to put these 2 points.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Satpathy. I think there is a lot to be done, as we all understand. This is a long journey in this space, and as of today, I believe we have gone through some of these in the past with other places that we have worked with, but it was great to hear your thoughts. It was definitely great to collectively brainstorm this. Nag and Pawan have been kind of patiently observing and looking at this. I believe we have a lot of action to take forward. Nag, 30 seconds of your observation, and then we'll move to Pawan to close this session. Can't hear you yet, but let's see. Okay, go ahead, try now, Nag.
Thank you. I give a quick 30 to 45 seconds, maybe. I want to acknowledge and thanks for the General Pant's opening remarks that Telangana and Andhra are on the forefront of the education as well as the public and the private partnership. So I take a great privilege to, for my father, who has been instrumental in setting up those partnerships back in the combined Andhra Pradesh as an academia and administrator running the administrations. I'll just take a few seconds. Before the COVID in last year itself, in the government of India, I had the good fortunes to meet with Prime Minister Modi and also Finance Minister Honorable Nirmala Sitharaman in New York City. We talked about the Indian growth from current 2.5 to the 5 trillion to 10 trillion in the next 5 to 10 years. The trajectory of the future growth, cyber becomes one of the key important factor how we protect the nation building as well as protecting the nation assets. So the public and private partnerships and recollecting my strong association and good fortune to working with Indian Consulate General in the New York City as well as the State Bank of India, both of the CEO, both of them returned last week. to take up the important roles in Indian administration. So their contributions really I saw where the private and public partnerships collaboratively to build this ecosystem. So I thank you, Val, once again, but we will, Valmiki will continue, and as we progress into the conversation, we have more things to share. So over to you.
Thank you, Nag. And as we have spoken in the last few months, just this pandemic itself has accelerated the entire digital transformation, which needs cybersecurity more than ever before. So in some concluding remarks, I turn it over to Dr. Dubal, who's going to be actually the execution. He's a visionary, but this is a time when we are all jumping down to action. So Pawan, over to you. You're on mute. Hang on one moment. Let me see. Okay, now should be able to hear you now.
I think today's been a very exciting discussion. It's the beginning of a journey. Clearly, the way cybersecurity has come as an important central factor in our day-to-day lives is hardly to be overstated. But the fact is that this cybersecurity is under constant challenge. Whether it's Australia, which has recently complained of massive cyber attacks, or whether it's the learnings from the Australian attacks that countries have to wake up to. Clearly, India is right now sitting at a very uneasy moment of its history. While it's asserting its rights over digital sovereignty and data sovereignty by banning Chinese apps, by ensuring that the Indian armed forces actually go ahead and block 89 different apps of the Chinese government, the fact is it goes far beyond. When I look at the landscape, the Indian Nodal Agency on Cybersecurity, Computer Emergency Response Team of India, has warned of a big cyber attack which is imminent and which is going to be extensively based on phishing. Further, a Singapore agency has roughly echoed similar sentiments. And now the latest news coming from the Reserve Bank of India, which has actually warned all the banking institutions of a big cyber attack targeted at the banking networks. Well, in this kind of an ecosystem, when currently we are all developing jurisprudence as we go along, we have to be mindful of certain historical realities. Realities that India has not got that kind of a historical heritage on cybersecurity that a lot of other countries have. For example, China. For example, we still don't have a dedicated law on cybersecurity. So there's a lot of work happening on the national cybersecurity strategy. But I think imminent preparation has to be prepared for all stakeholders in the event this imminent cyber attack takes place. And logically so, it makes logical sense to target India at this moment of time when it's clearly amongst the top 3 nations being impacted most by COVID-19 at a time when the SOPs pertaining to critical information infrastructure cyber attacks are not openly known in the public domain. So I think the focus has to be more on consolidation. The focus has to be more on capacity building. At the online university, Cyber Law University, which I'm heading as an honorary chancellor, we have started focusing on creating cyber law digital skill sets for people. So we've got the short courses. The courses are on various issues of cyber law, cyber security law, artificial intelligence law, cybercrime law, blockchain law, and other similar aspects. So the idea is to cover those things which have not been covered in the existing syllabi of different academic institutions. And lo and behold, in the last 2 years, we've seen more than about 24,000 students from 168 countries who've come and subscribed to these courses. And I think it's these kind of initiatives which require governmental support, because today, even when I'm in this COVID-19 times, trying as a digital user to go ahead and supplement my skill sets, somewhere down the line, I'm requiring some kind of a governmental acknowledgement, a governmental recognition of what I'm doing will have to be relevant and topical. So I think the onus will be massively on the government, but yes, the private sector has to immensely contribute in this space. So already we are seeing a huge vacuum in the Indian app space, because with the exit of this 59 Chinese apps, and now with the warnings coming on to another similar couple of dozens unofficial versions of Chinese apps, we are finding that the ecosystem is just about ripe now to give the right push to the Indian app developers so that they can innovate, they can specifically address the Indian ecosystem requirements, and of course ensure that they comply with the law. Well, as we go forward in enhancing capacities, I distinctly believe that cyber law, cybercrime, and cybersecurity are these paradigms which will have to go increasingly hand in hand. And we will have to start on constantly re-innovating ourselves. Well, a lot of what we have actually learned in the pre-COVID-19 times is now become redundant, because the COVID-19 learnings have told us that lo and behold, whatever and howsoever you are prepared for the future has always some new ways of trying to surprise you and trying to take you off your balance. So I think we'll have to have a holistic approach. Programs like these could be great starting points. I've been making my notes in this conversation of some remarkable good points which can be culled down as important action points. Look, we want these roundtables to be action oriented, and whatever you're actually speaking as distinguished speakers will all be culled down into collectivism, which can then be specifically distilled for immediate action amongst various stakeholders. But this is a fascinating journey. Thank you for being part of this journey. I've learned so much in this 1.5 hours today, listening to all of you guys, distinguished perspectives, distinguished visions, and thought leaders who've come together and share their common wisdom for the common benefit of the Indian ecosystem as a whole. I think everybody has to contribute. The independent silos is now a thing of the past, and in this collaborative digital data economy where data resilience and cyber resilience has to be the new norm, I think we have to every day unlearn, relearn, and constantly adapt ourselves to new technologies. Thank you for your remarkable perspectives this afternoon and this evening on this issue, and we look forward to far more distinctive new kinds of these interactions and programs under the banner of the Cyber Future Foundation. Thank you for all your time, effort, vision, energies, and most significantly, your guidance and your perspectives. Thanks, and over to you, Valmiki.
Thank you so much, Pawan. And with those thoughts, I couldn't make it any better. I think it is a great calling for us to come together and actually do some good work, which we have done individually but collectively now. And we cannot wait for this journey to begin and then continue on march on. So thank you all. Thank you for those that were able to participate also. And as you can imagine, that being held accountable, having this in public and making sure that we share this with the rest of you, we are going to put together a roadmap. We can't wait for the national cybersecurity strategy to come out, and with our inputs and with the collective I think experience and skill set, we can definitely make that impact. So thank you again. Thank you for joining us for the last 2 years and to make these 2 hours happen. So excellent. And be safe, be well. We'll see you soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you, Pawan.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Val. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Nav.
We stopped streaming.
Yes, and I'll be the last one to go.
No, just wanted to confirm to you. Anything on my end, you can just kind of share with me or speak to me offline. And,
absolutely. Yeah, I'm here. So let me stop this. Let me stop this meeting. This is being recorded, so I'll just stop this one. I'll send you one quick note. Okay.
Val, this is Carlos. I'm signing off.
All right. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you.